where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Well, good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World Eating with me, Jyotsna Kumar.
And I'm Diksha Bisla, and coming up on the show today, US President Donald Trump said that he hopes Hezbollah acts nicely, and this as a 10-day ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel takes effect. The truce began with Washington pushing broader peace efforts. Now, Trump is also seeking a historic meeting between both nations' leaders, amid Iran insisting a Lebanon ceasefire be a part of the deal. We'll bring you the latest on that front on the show today. Stay tuned.
Well, on the other hand, U.S. President Donald Trump says Washington and Tehran are very close to a peace deal, claiming Iran has agreed to hand over its enriched uranium, which has been a major sticking point between the U.S. and Iran. The U.S. had earlier warned of renewed airstrikes if Tehran refused to accept terms to end this conflict. We're bringing you more on details on that as well. Let's begin by a quick check on the headlines of this hour.
Talk about many things, but it's really an honor to see you.
Donald Trump calls Prime Minister Modi a friend and says they have a very good conversation during a recent phone call as both leaders discuss the situation in West Asia. Remarks come days after Modi confirmed receiving a call from Trump.
They've agreed to give us back the nuclear dust that's way underground because of the attack we made with the B-2 bombers.
Donald Trump says Washington and Tehran are very close to a peace deal and insists that Iran has agreed to hand over its enriched uranium, a key sticking point in negotiations.
They're going to be having a ceasefire, and that'll include Hezbollah.
10-day ceasefire deal agreed between Lebanon and Israel takes effect as Trump says he is trying to set up direct talks between leaders of the two countries, hoping that Hezbollah acts nicely during the ceasefire.
At least 7 killed and 33 wounded in Israeli strike on southern Lebanese town of Ghazieh hours before ceasefire between the two countries went into effect. Lebanese health ministry says toll is preliminary and not final.
Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir meets Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian in Tehran as part of mediation efforts to prevent renewed conflict after failed talks in Islamabad, while Trump says the next talks may happen over the weekend.
Gaza's civil defense says Israeli fire killed 4 people, including a child, while Israel says it killed 2 militants near Beit Lahia and is reviewing other deaths. Officials report 766 killed since the truce began.
Asian markets opened lower on Friday despite easing West Asia tensions, while U.S. stocks extended record highs. The Nasdaq notched a 12-day winning streak, with the S&P 500 and Dow also higher. U.S. futures were mixed, pointing to a cautious start.
A Ballon d'Or winner Lionel Messi has bought Spanish fifth-tier club Cornella. Messi's former teammate Alba is a product of Cornella's academy. Messi joins a growing trend of footballers investing in club ownership. And a 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon has officially come into effect.
And this raising cautious hopes of easing tensions in the region. Well, the truce, which was announced by U.S. President Donald Trump, began at midnight local time. The U.S. President announced the ceasefire following what he described as excellent talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Lebanese President Joseph Aoun.
Now, in a significant diplomatic push, Trump has also proposed a face-to-face meeting between Israeli and Lebanese leaders, something that would mark a major breakthrough. Trump claimed that Iran-backed Hezbollah, which has been fighting with Israel in Lebanon, is included in the ceasefire.
I think they will. I think it's going to be, actually, it's very exciting because it's 48 years. We're going to be meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, as you know, and the president of Lebanon. And I had a great talk with both of them today. They're going to be having a ceasefire, and that'll include Hezbollah. And I think it could be number 10 for me.
Later in a social media post, Trump expressed hope that Hezbollah will act nicely and well during the 10-day ceasefire. Trump added, and I'm quoting him here, "It will be a great moment for them if they do. No more killing, must finally have peace."
The U.S. State Department has published the details of the ceasefire agreement, including the potential for it to be extended by mutual agreement. The truce requires Lebanese government to take steps to prevent Hezbollah and all other non-state armed groups in its territory from carrying out any attacks against Israel.
I think we will have an agreement between Lebanon, and they're going to take care of Hezbollah. But they're going to be working on Hezbollah right now. But we'll have an agreement between Israel, very importantly, and Lebanon.
The president later said he expected Netanyahu and Aoun to visit the White House over the next 4 to 5 days. A top-level face-to-face meeting between the Lebanese and Israeli leadership would be a watershed moment for the region.
Well, moments after the ceasefire took hold, gunfire was heard in Beirut's southern suburbs. It was believed to be celebratory, though not independently confirmed.
Well, the ceasefire comes as the renewed fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, triggered by the war against Iran, has killed more than 2,000 people in Lebanon. It has also caused widespread destruction and driven more than 1 million residents from their homes.
As the ceasefire came into force, Israel's military said it had struck over 380 Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon and was on high alert to resume strikes.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu called the truce an opportunity for a historic peace agreement, but insisted that Hezbollah must disarm as a key condition.
Iran has welcomed the ceasefire, while a Hezbollah official said they will cautiously respect the ceasefire, but only if Israeli attacks stop. Lawmaker Ibrahim al-Musawi thanked Iran for having applied pressure in Lebanon's favor.
Now, Iran has maintained ceasefire in Lebanon as precondition for any deal with the United States. The ceasefire comes as Washington says it is close to reaching a broader deal with Iran, potentially signaling a wider de-escalation in the region.
All right, to discuss more on this, we are now being joined live by Bishop Garrison from Virginia. He is a former senior advisor to the Secretary of Defense and current senior fellow and adjunct professor at National Security Institute at George Mason University Law School. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Of course, I'll begin with the big statement, of course, Trump announcing a ceasefire. Netanyahu reacting that, of course, he said that he called the truce an opportunity for a historic peace agreement. But again, the one sticking point is, of course, the disarmament of Hezbollah. It seems like a very key issue. But then do you still think this is a major step towards the Lebanese and Israel a ceasefire and maybe, of course, the extension of it?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. Yes, potentially. What you have right now is a very fragile peace, and all sides understand that there is an opportunity here to move forward and find something that's much more lasting, something that's much more stable. It sounds and seems as though that all sides are taking this very seriously and looking to lean on their seasoned diplomats in order to find that lasting peace. So it has the potential of being a historic moment.
Absolutely. And even during the larger Washington and Iran talks, the one sticking point, as Jyotsna just mentioned, was, of course, Lebanon and the agreement being extended to Lebanon. Now, theoretically, it seems that those preconditions have been met. Do you think it's going to be viable enough for Iran to come back to the negotiating table and the next talks in Islamabad create a different outcome? Because from what we saw the last time in the 21 hours, it did not no side actually was willing to concede to the red lines. But now, does this change the calculus going forward?
Potentially it does. Even as the ceasefire just hours before it went into effect in Lebanon, you still had some level of kinetic activity within the region with an additional 7 or 8 individuals, unfortunately, killed during that. So you still have the potential of this, quite frankly, at one or multiple sides taking issue with some type of action that takes place and it falls apart. That is why this is so fragile. But at the same time, as we've mentioned, there is still a lot of opportunity here. You have Iran coming back to the table. You have talks about what's going to happen with their uranium. This is something new that previously they weren't really willing or able to discuss at all. And now you have Israel that is having the potential of face-to-face talks with the Lebanese government. So there are a lot of positives in what has been reported, but we must understand that we have to go with this in steps and in phases, and it's going to take a lot of compromise on both sides and a willingness to hear the various sides out in order to make this work.
And this, of course, the ceasefire seems to be one of the points that has actually led this to happen. Coming back to the Lebanon and Israel ceasefire, when this was announced, it looked like Israeli Prime Minister was in a cabinet meeting with his VAR officials, and it seemed like it was a very, of course, there was no consultation as such with Netanyahu. How do you see Netanyahu's reaction, and what do you think does this ceasefire mean for Netanyahu?
Well, I can't speak, of course, to whether or not there was a consultation, but it at least seems as though he's speaking from a diplomatic perspective right now, saying that he's willing and able to meet with the president of Lebanon. So that is something that we have not necessarily seen, at least in recent times. And it could be a potentially historic event. He's towing the line here, and it seems as though he has had subsequent conversations with the U.S. and is willing and able to at least move forward to some degree. But again, as we mentioned, that this is going to be a step-by-step process, and it's going to take a lot of resolve on all sides and a willingness to compromise in order for us to move forward.
Absolutely. And while that remains the baseline, we understand that the agreement is technically between Israel and the Lebanese state. But again, if we are treading with caution, it is pertinent to us that the conflict essentially on the ground has been between Israel and Hezbollah, and now with the non-state actor without it being directly involved in the agreement. It makes you question how viable is the ceasefire going to be?
It's a fair point. We can, ascertain that if the Lebanese government agrees to some parts of this, then they're going to be able to have some type of influence over Hezbollah in order to ensure that the ceasefire that has been brokered or any agreement that's been brokered is not going to be violated. So, but again, it's a fair question. And on Israel's side, they're going to have to be in a position to take the Lebanese government at its word and believe that they're able and willing to hold Hezbollah accountable should some type of action take place that violates any type of agreement. So it's a step-by-step, slow-moving process, but it sounds as though the parties are at least in a position to begin some type of solid negotiations, and we can see from there what actually takes place.
Also, when it comes to the Iran-U.S. negotiations, Donald Trump has now claimed that Iran has now agreed to hand over its enriched uranium that is now underground, as he's described it. According to U.S., they had proposed a 20-year stop to its nuclear program. According to Iran, they wanted it to be 5 years. There seems to be, of course, again, the sticking point there, coming back to the talks that happened even before the 12-day war in June last year. So it seems like they're back to square one. How do you analyze those talks going forward when Iran is clearly adamant about, not really saying that it's not for a nuclear weapon, it's for civilian purposes?
Yeah, again, it's interesting because there's a world in which we may come back to some of the broad strokes or some of the main key points of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action brokered under President Obama that ensured that there was no nuclear weapon in Iran, and it still provided some opportunities for them to use it to continue some civilian programs with the proper oversight. And that's very well what we may end up back to, as you mentioned, being back at square one. And should that be the case, it really begs the question, well, what was, the necessity in any of this conflict and strife to begin with? So it's going to be interesting to see what is actually agreed to in order to close this continuous gap right now that we're seeing in regarding the terms of any agreement.
Absolutely. And having said that, of course, this Lebanon-Israel deal, it has a direct influence on what is going to happen with Washington and Iran. And we've also seen Israel carry out with a certain amount of strategic autonomy, even though it says that it's completely aligned with the goals as the United States. But do you think it's also contingent on how far Israel is willing to go to restrain its appetite for, going on with the conflict and actually showing the same level of restraint that Washington requires out of them to make this deal any different than what happened the last time?
Yeah, I think absolutely that Israel and the United States are going to have to maintain strong communications and be lock in step on this one. Israel's not going to be able to be in a more autonomous position as they have been previously, because of the conditions relying from Israel and Lebanon on the U.S. Iran deal. So I believe we will see a bit more restraint there. We'll see a lot of communication. We'll see a lot of the types, or we should see a lot of the types of statements that were made previously today from Benjamin Netanyahu and from President Trump, where it sounds as though they are very much aligned in the way that they want to move forward diplomatically. So I can't stress enough how fragile this is and how much you cannot have anyone acting as an outlier if you're going to have any type of lasting agreement here that really takes place.
And in terms of diplomacy, how does the decision impact Netanyahu back home when it comes to domestic issues politically?
Well, I think that remains to be seen. It really depends on what the ultimate terms of any agreement is. We know that he's been somewhat unpopular at times in the past domestically, and that has played no small part in some of his political decisions. It's going to be interesting to see how the Israeli people ultimately take this. It would appear from polling, and it appears from a lot of their own comments that the vast majority do not want to be in a conflict, and no one wants to be in a long-standing locked conflict. And Israel has had actions taking place within the region with various governments, with various autonomous groups. So It would seem as though everyone is ready to find a way to a lasting peace in this, to include the Israeli people, and that is going to likely play a role domestically, a large one for President Netanyahu, or Prime Minister, excuse me.
Right. All right, of course. Well, a lot of sticking points, a lot of tension there. But yeah, well, we would still see this ceasefire as a very positive outcome of some negotiations going on. But thank you so much, Mr. Garrison, for joining us and giving your perspective and enlightening us all the details. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and moving on, U.S. President Donald Trump says that Washington and Tehran, they're very close to a peace deal now.
He has claimed that Iran had agreed to hand over its enriched uranium, a key sticking point in negotiations. Listen to this.
Very important is that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, and they've agreed to that. Iran's agreed to that, and they've agreed to it very powerfully. They've agreed to give us back the nuclear dust that's way underground because of the attack we made with the B-2 bomber. So we have a lot of agreement with Iran, and I think something's going to happen very positive.
Well, later at an event in Las Vegas, Trump reiterated that the war in Iran should be ending pretty soon. Trump again remarked that the war with Iran was a little diversion.
We'll say the war in Iran is going along swimmingly. We can do whatever we want. And it should be ending pretty soon. It was perfect. I mean, it's perfect. It was the power we have, our military. We have the most powerful military anywhere in the world. I built it 4 years, my first 4 years.
Iran's nuclear activities were a sticking point at talks in Pakistan last weekend. Trump also said that if an Iran deal is reached and signed in Islamabad, he might go.
On Thursday, Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir met Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. Munir is in Tehran as head of a high-level delegation within the framework of mediation efforts between Iran and the United States.
The meeting with Pezeshkian came after Munir met Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, who led the Iranian delegation at the first round of talks last week.
Meanwhile, the Pakistani Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif, is now in Turkey's Antalya, a third stop of a 4-day regional tour after Jeddah and Doha.
Iran's U.S. ambassador later said that Iran was cautiously optimistic about peace talks with the United States, expressing hope for a meaningful outcome. A day earlier, Iran has insisted that its right to enrich uranium was indisputable, although the level of enrichment was negotiable.
Trump has insisted that any deal with Iran must permanently block it from acquiring nuclear weapons. He launched the war claiming Tehran was rushing to complete an atomic bomb. Tehran insists its nuclear program is peaceful. Washington has reportedly sought a 20-year suspension of Iran's uranium enrichment program, while Tehran has proposed suspending nuclear activity for 5 years, an offer which U.S. officials have rejected.
Washington has sought to escalate pressure on Tehran by blockading its ports, with U.S. Central Command claiming to have completely halted economic trade going into and out of Iran by sea.
The U.S. action is a blockade of Iran's ports and coastline, not a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Enforcement will occur inside Iran's territorial seas and in international waters.
A video released by U.S. Central Command appeared to show a sailor aboard a U.S. warship in Gulf of Oman, enforcing the blockade by ordering a merchant ship to divert its course.
Motor vessel Molly, this is warship 112. We will be escorting you to your next port of call. Thank you for your cooperation. This is warship 112, standing by at channel 16.
And all this as a 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon has taken into effect. And now the Strait of Hormuz and Iran's nuclear stockpile remain the key sticking points between U.S. and Iran. The 2-week ceasefire, which halted attacks in Iran and the Gulf, is due to expire on Tuesday.
We don't need oil, but we did it. It's almost, you could say we did it out of habit.
And for more on this, our colleague Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Take a look.
President Trump says Iran has agreed to hand over what he calls nuclear dust, highly enriched uranium believed to be buried underground after U.S. strikes against key sites in Fordo and Natanz. If confirmed, this would be a major step towards limiting Iran's nuclear capabilities on the one hand, and could also eliminate the need for a risky U.S. military operation under consideration to physically recover that material. Now, this comes as negotiations will likely happen in Islamabad between the U.S. and Iran. Will President Trump attend? Well, he says he might. But all of this is happening as a fragile ceasefire is nearing expiration, a make or break moment of renewed conflict, or possibly not. All this as earlier in the day, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said that the U.S. military continues to be locked and loaded on Iran's critical infrastructure if diplomacy fails. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
U.S. President Donald Trump has once again taken aim at Pope Leo, asserting that he has a sovereign right to disagree with the pontiff's stand on global outlook.
And this while warning of Iran's nuclear ambitions. Well, the latest pushback comes following Pope Leo's call for global peace during his visit to Cameroon, where he warned that the world is being ravaged by a handful of tyrants.
We must make a decisive change of course, a true conversion that will lead us in the opposite direction onto a sustainable path rich in human fraternity. The world is being ravaged by a handful of tyrants. It is held together by a multitude of supportive brothers and sisters. The masters of war pretend not to know that it takes only a moment to destroy. Yet often, a life is often not enough to rebuild. They turn a blind eye to the fact that billions of dollars are spent on killing, on devastation, yet the resources needed for healing, education, and restoration are nowhere to be found.
Following Pope's stinging address, Trump condemned the use of religion for political or military purposes, asserting his right to dissent. Trump, however, claimed that he was not fighting against the Pope and had nothing personally against him.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. If they did, every country, including Italy, where he's stationed, every single country in the world would be in trouble. So we're doing very well with respect to that. I have to do what's right. The Pope has to understand that. Very simple. I have nothing against the Pope. His brother's MAGA all the way. I like his brother, Louis. I'm not fighting with him. The Pope made a statement. He says Iran can have a nuclear weapon. I say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if the Pope looked at the 42,000 people that were killed over the last 2 or 3 months as a protester with no weapons, no nothing, I mean, you take a look at that. So I can disagree with the Pope.
Now, President Trump and Pope Leo have squared off in recent days. Trump had criticized the leader of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics on everything from Iran to immigration, calling him weak and wrong. Now, this was met by sharp criticism from Pope Leo, who asserted his moral duty to speak out against the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran, calling Trump's recent threat to target Iranian civilization truly unacceptable.
Profit in weapons, thus perpetuating an endless cycle of destabilization.
And with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break on World DNA.
But don't go anywhere. On the other side, the Indian government has issued notification stating that the 2023 Act providing 33% reservation to women has come into force on April 16th. Notification comes as the parliament is debating fresh constitutional amendment to implement women's reservation. We'll get to you all the details on the other side.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
जिंदगी के सफर में गुजर जाते हैं
the voice of versatility and the queen of playback. As India mourns the loss of Asha Bhosle, we celebrate her musical legacy that lives on. A melody of a lifetime. On WION at these times.
5 states, 1 powerful voice. From Tamil Nadu to West Bengal. From Kerala to Assam. Every vote shapes the future. Get the election pulse only on WION.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World this one. This is World DNA with me, Jyotika Kumar, and my colleague Disha Bisla. Let's begin with the headlines.
India bring into force the 2023 Act, which provides for 33% reservation for women in the Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies. Even as Parliament is debating fresh constitutional amendments relating to delimitation and the implementation of women's reservation.
Donald Trump calls PM Modi a friend and says they had a very good conversation during a recent phone call as both leaders discussed situation in West Asia. Remarks come days after Modi confirmed receiving a call from Trump.
Trump calls the U.S. war with Iran a little diversion during his second term while speaking at a Las Vegas event, where he praised his economic record and highlights his tax policy achievements.
I might go. Yeah. If the deal is signed in Islamabad, I might go.
U.S. President Trump says U.S. and Iran are very close to a peace deal, adding that Iran has agreed to hand over its enriched uranium. Suggests he could travel to Pakistan for a possible signing ceremony if an agreement is reached.
Lebanon's army reports acts of aggression by Israel, saying the IDF violated the ceasefire, which took effect at midnight. Warns residents in southern Lebanon to remain cautious amid breaches of the agreement.
Gaza Civil Defense says Israeli fire killed 4 people, including a child, while Israel says it killed 2 militants near Beit Lahiya and is reviewing other deaths. Officials report 766 killed since the truce began.
Oil dropped on Friday as President Trump said the deal with Iran was looking very good amid the temporary ceasefire. Brent fell towards $98 a barrel after rising 4.7% on Thursday to test the $100 mark.
A Ballon d'Or winner, Lionel Messi, has bought Spanish fifth-tier club Cornella. Messi's former teammate Alba is a product of Cornella's academy. Messi joins a growing trend of footballers investing in club ownership.
The Government of India has issued a notification stating that the 2023 Act providing 33% reservation to women in Lok Sabha and state assemblies has come into force.
Now, the notification has been issued at a time when Parliament is debating fresh constitutional amendments relating to delimitation and the implementation of women's reservation. Although the President had granted assent to the women's reservation law way back in 2023 itself, it had not come into operation yet. As per the 2023 Act, women's reservation will take effect only after the delimitation, which is carried out after the next census. The notification came into effect on Wednesday, hours after government has officially introduced 3 constitutional amendment bills in the Parliament.
Now, these new bills focus on 2 things: implementation of Women's Reservation Bill and carrying out delimitation of parliamentary districts. To discuss these proposals, Indian Parliament convened on a 3-day special session today, where Union Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal introduced 3 bills in the lower house.
धन्यवाद अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं आपकी अनुमति से ये प्रस्ताव करता हूं कि भारत के संविधान का और संशोधन करने वाले विधेयक, संविधान 131वां संशोधन विधेयक 2026 को पूर्व स्थापित करने की अनुमति दी जाए।
Now, several political parties, especially in India's southern states, are opposing delimitation. India's constitution mandates that allocation of seats should be proportional to the population of states. Because of this, southern states fear losing representation due to higher population growth in India's north.
But Prime Minister Narendra Modi assured that no state will face discrimination. And as elected representatives, members of parliament are not allowed to think of India in fragments. He said that the change will open the way for women's participation in the policy making.
चाहे दक्षिण हो, उत्तर हो, पूर्व हो, पश्चिम हो, छोटे राज्य हो, बड़े राज्य हो, मैं आज एक जिम्मेवारी से कहना चाहता हूं कि निर्णय प्रक्रिया किसी के साथ भी भेदभाव नहीं करेगी।
Opposition parties argue that government is trying to redraw India's legislative map to their political advantage. They say government should decouple delimitation with women's reservation and give representation to women under the existing composition of parliament.
See, the issue is very simple. The government has clearly got a plan to re-delimit the constituencies and increase the number of seats in the areas where the ruling party is strong. And they are using women's reservation as an excuse to bring about that change. This is a political demonetization.
All right, staying with news from India, Delhi's air quality is deteriorating once again.
Now, the national capital's air quality index, it rose to 226, prompting authorities to impose GRAP 1 measures across the national capital region with immediate effect. Announcing the decision, the Commission for Air Quality Management said the spike is being driven by unfavorable meteorological conditions, which are preventing pollutants from dispersing. According to forecasts from the India Meteorological Department, air quality is expected to remain in the poor range for at least the next 2 days.
Under the Greater Response Action Plan, different levels of restrictions are triggered based on the severity of the pollution. Stage 1 is enforced when AQI levels range between 201 and 300. More stringent measures follow as air quality worsens. Well, for now, authorities are focusing on preventive measures to stop further deterioration.
And these include mechanized road sweeping and water sprinkling to control dust, stricter enforcement at construction sites, and improved waste management practices.
Now, there will also be tighter checks on polluting vehicles along with better traffic management to reduce congestion-related emissions.
Industries, power plants, and brick mills are also under scrutiny, with emission control norms expected to be strictly enforced.
The Commission for Air Quality Control Management has directed all agencies across the NCR to remain on high alert.
And a mysterious trend in Pakistan continues to baffle everyone.
This is globally exposed for its patronage of terror. Pakistan witnessed yet another attack on a terrorist on its soil by unidentified men. And as per reports, 2 people riding a motorcycle opened fire at a terror group, Lashkar-e-Toiba co-founder Amir Hamza, as his car was passing through a road in Lahore. And as a result, Hamza sustained a bullet injury to his arm. In May last year, there was reportedly a similar bid on his life after being shot in the waist area, but he had survived back then.
Now, Hamza is one of the 17 founder members of terror group LET, Lashkar-e-Toiba, along with Hafiz Saeed, designated as a global terrorist by the U.S. Treasury Department in 2012. He has played a key role in fundraising and recruitment. Hamza is believed to have helped plan the 2005 IISc Bengaluru terror attack.
Now, this marks the 3rd mysterious incident involving a terrorist in Pakistan over the last few weeks. On March 21st, senior Lashkar-e-Toiba commander Chaudhry Bilal Arif Salafi was shot and stabbed to death inside the outfit's heavily guarded headquarters in Muridke.
Subsequently, terror group Lashkar-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar's elder brother Mohammad Tahir Anwar passed away. However, the cause of his death remains a closely guarded secret.
Now, this is not a new trend. Since the last few years, Pakistan has seen a number of terrorists being killed by unknown individuals. For instance, Zahur Mistry, one of the hijackers of Indian Airlines flight IC-814, was shot dead by 2 bike-borne assailants in Karachi's Akhtar colony in March 2022. The mysterious killing continued unabated in 2023. Paramjit Singh Panjwar, leader of banned terror outfit Khalistan Commando Force, was killed by unidentified gunmen when he had gone out for a walk in Lahore. In October 2023, one of India's most wanted terrorists, Shahid Latif, was gunned down near Noor Mandine Mosque in Sialkot. This Jaish-e-Mohammed leader was the mastermind of the 2016 Pathankot attack. Last year, top LET commander Abu Khatir was shot dead by unidentified assailants.
Now, he was wanted by India in connection with multiple terror attacks.
Now, the ongoing conflict in West Asia is translating into higher costs for American consumers.
And this surge is evident at the pump with rising gasoline and diesel prices. However, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent believes that the prices would ease in the near future.
Are we really going to get $3 a gallon gas?
Well, I think that's going to be the up to how the negotiations go. President Trump said this morning that he thinks we're nearing the end. The U.S. kept their side on the ceasefire. We've stopped firing. The Straits of Hormuz have not been completely reopened. So we will see. And I'm optimistic that during the summer, we will see gas with a 3 in front of it sooner rather than later. It's Bank Week here in D.C., so I've been meeting with a lot of my Middle Eastern counterparts, the finance ministers, and they all say that once the streets are open, they can start pumping again within 1 week.
While Bessent believes disruptions could normalize in 1 week, International Energy Agency Chief Fateh Birol warned of a looming crisis ahead, which no country is immune to. Listen to this.
Dear colleagues, the world is facing the greatest energy security challenge in the history. It is oil, it is natural gas, but it is also other vital commodities such as fertilizers, petrochemicals, helium, and others. The scale of the problem is huge, and countries will suffer under this. Some more than the others, but I can tell you, no country is immune to this problem.
Now, this comes as the political landscape in the U.S. heats up over fuel costs. Energy Secretary Chris Wright was at the center of a showdown with Democrats, with Wright defending his administration's focus on energy affordability.
So no administration has focused more on energy affordability than this Trump administration. No administration even close. In fact, the Biden administration spent a massive amount of money to elevate the price of electricity, to elevate the price of gasoline, diesel, home heating. Every energy source was driven up, and they spent money to drive it up. We're trying to do the opposite. We're releasing market forces to drive energy prices down.
Mr. Secretary. I don't know what you're telling me. We're looking at gasoline prices go through the roof. In the state of Connecticut, it's $4 plus now, $6 in the state of California. You're talking about energy efficiency. This is an administration that decided on a war of choice in Iran and driving up these costs. I don't know if anybody thought about the consequences. And I would just ask you, because this is your world. Did you provide any information prior to February 28th regarding how potential strikes against Iran would impact global energy prices? And what are you doing to address the price impacts?
Beyond gas prices, the agricultural sector is also directly impacted. Roughly 1/3 of the world's fertilizer trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz, making supplies vulnerable to geopolitical disruptions. A recent survey shows nearly 70% of farmers say fertilizer is becoming unaffordable.
Well, early signs of inflation are also visible in the food basket. Prices are up 1.9% over the past year, with fruits and vegetables rising by 4%. Higher input costs and potential supply constraints could push prices further in the coming months.
Now, key energy hubs like Qatar have already warned that recovery would take years. As blockades grow around the Strait of Hormuz, analysts warn of a prolonged disruption, which means long-term impact on global economy.
And the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission is investigating suspiciously well-timed trades in the oil futures market.
This is just ahead of recent policy pivots by President Donald Trump related to the war in Iran. The CFTC is looking into instances where trading volume surged shortly before major announcements. The regulator has requested data from exchanges, including the so-called Tag 50 identifications of the entities behind the trades. The investigation follows concerns about potential misuse of material non-public information tied to Trump's shifting stance on the war in Iran, with 2 Democratic senators urging the CFTC to examine potential irregularities. The top derivatives regulator is looking into at least 2 instances over a period of about 2 weeks where trading volume surged shortly before major announcements.
Well, recent examples where oil trading volume spiked at key moments in the past few weeks have raised concerns. Historic disruption to flow through the Strait of Hormuz sent oil soaring at the start of the conflict, and prices whipsawed in subsequent weeks on speculation over when tanker traffic might resume through the strait.
A Bloomberg report quoting sources showed the review of market behavior includes all venues, prediction markets like Polymarket and Kalshi that list related products with little to no visibility are also under the scanner.
Earlier this week, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren said that these suspicious oil trades look like an appalling example of insiders rigging the market. The senator added that the probe is a start, but CFTC and the SEC should do their job and investigate anything that looks like insider trading by Trump administration officials.
On 23rd March, oil and stocks futures worth billions of dollars were traded 15 minutes before Trump delayed strikes on Iranian energy infrastructure. The president's comments in a Truth Social post sent crude prices plummeting and equities soaring. A similar trend was seen ahead of Trump's April 7th announcement of a 2-week ceasefire with Iran. Futures activity increased in the hours before the news, which caused both oil and gas prices to plunge. And the European Commission has proposed new rules that could force Google to share its search data with rival search engines,
including artificial intelligence chatbots with search features. Well, the move is part of the European Union's Digital Markets Act, which aims to curb the power of big tech and boost competition. Under the proposal, Google would give third-party search providers access to certain search data to help them improve their own services and compete more effectively. The European Commission said the measures would define what data must be shared, how often it should be provided, and how personal information should be anonymized.
The rules would also set out who can access the data and how prices for that data should be determined. The Commission said that the goal is to allow rival search engines and AI-powered services to challenge Google's dominance in online search. Google, however, has strongly pushed back against the proposal. The company said forcing it to share search data could put users' privacy at risk.
Google's senior competition counsel, Claire Kelly, said, and I'm quoting her here, "Hundreds of millions of Europeans trust Google with their most sensitive searches, including private questions about their health, family, and finances." She warned that sharing such data with third parties could lead to dangerously ineffective privacy protections.
The proposal is now open for feedback, with interested parties given until the 1st of May to submit their views. A final decision is expected in July.
All right, and now shifting our focus to the world of sports, the FIFA World Cup is less than 2 months away. As President Gianni Infantino may have seemed to solve the Iran issue,
but he is yet to address the growing angst among fans over the showpiece event. If high ticket prices were not already a concern for the fans, reports of New Jersey's transit planning to charge more than $100 for return rail tickets from New York's Pennsylvania station to MetLife Stadium for World Cup games have only added to their worries. If implemented, it will mark a 7-fold increase from the usual $12.9 return fare. MetLife Stadium, to be known as a New Jersey stadium during the World Cup under FIFA policy on corporate sponsorship, will host 8 matches, including an England group game and the final on 19th July. Similarly, train fares for matches at Gillette Stadium near Boston have risen to $80, with coach tickets costing up to $95. And amid these developments, a top U.S. lawmaker has urged FIFA to cover public transportation costs.
And it's not just the costs that are raising concerns. Security preparations for the World Cup have also taken a hit, with the ongoing shutdown of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security slowing planning and coordination.
Now, a senior official told Senate hearing that key preparations have been delayed due to staff furloughs. The loss of experienced personnel, including transportation security officers, officials have also warned of potential threats from extremists, adding to concerns around readiness for the global tournament.
At a time with what's going on globally, at a time when we're going to have this historic tournament, it's time to open our Department of Homeland Security. It has impacted, I know the acting administrator has been up here on the Hill, have talked about the hundreds of TSOs that have been lost during the shutdown. We just can't replace that expertise overnight. It has hindered our coordination with state and locals. It has reduced our planning efforts.
After a gap of 14 years, superstar Akshay Kumar and director Priyadarshan have joined forces once again for the highly anticipated horror comedy Bhoot Bangla.
Well, the film officially hit cinemas today, and for over a decade, the collaboration between Akshay Kumar and Priyadarshan, it was the gold standard for Indian comedy. Together, they ace the genre as they deliver a string of blockbusters such as Hera Fairy, Garam Masala, Bhagam Bhag, De Danadan, and Bhool Bhulaiya. Bhoot Bangla is a spiritual sequel to Bhool Bhulaiya. Bhoot Bangla sees the duo return to their roots. The movie is a throwback to their unique brand of situational humor, impeccable comic timing, and chaotic laugh-out-loud climaxes, which defined an entire era of Bollywood cinema. This time, it arrives with a blend of supernatural element.
Now, the movie also pays a musical homage to the legendary Oscar-winning filmmaker Satyajit Ray. The film's vibrant track, which was composed by Pritam, draws slight inspiration from a Bengali song from Ray's 1969 film Kupe Gaine Bagabaine.
Alongside Akshay Kumar, the film features Paresh Rawal, Rajpal Yadav, Tabu, Vamika Gabbi, and the late Asrani.
बड़ी मुश्किल से आती हैं।
Oh, that's all in this bulletin, but don't go anywhere. News and updates will follow on the other side. You're watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
Five states, one powerful voice. From Tamil Nadu to West Bengal. Kerala to Assam. Every vote shapes the future. Yet the election pulse only on WION.
जिंदगी के सफर में गुजर जाते हैं जो मकाम.
The voice of versatility and the queen of playback. As India mourns the loss of Asha Bhosle, we celebrate her musical legacy that lives on. A melody of a lifetime. On WION at these times.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness. In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION World is One.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world.